Hello, Morrill Middle School. It's the Spaniard, and I'm back here with you. It's been a couple weeks since we last talked, but I hope you had a good Thanksgiving break, and I hope you have a good time. This is often a difficult time, kind of in between Thanksgiving and the holiday season, and then the new year, and then the new year is tough, getting back into the swing of things. So I want to send a little energy and inspiration and motivation your way. But at the conclusion of our talks last month, I asked you if you wanted to submit some questions, and Mr. Alberts submitted to me some questions, and then I've taken a couple questions that I've talked about in other schools and the questions they submitted, and I'm going to give you some answers here. And again, my main goal here, there's a question of why I started speaking in schools. My main goal in this video and my mission in life really is to help you deal with the challenges and situations that you're dealing with. Life is not easy, especially now during COVID. It's a lot more challenging and difficult than it normally is. So my guess is that you are dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety and worries, as am I, as are your teachers, as the world is, to be honest. So I'm just going to go point by point, question by question. I encourage you all throughout this video and or after the video, don't hesitate to reach out to me on social media at Charlie Spaniard. Mr. Alberts has my information, so please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll shout a reminder out at the end as well. My goal is to help, so if I can help, please reach out. So the first question is, how did you get through all these negative thoughts? So first and foremost, I want to put this out there. You're not wrong, bad, weird for having negative thoughts. I, like most everyone, has negative thoughts. I think that it's important to realize that from the get-go, but also to actively, intentionally try your best to get through those negative thoughts. And I'm not going to get too sciencey on you here, but our draw to negativity, it's actually an evolutionary trait of human beings. It's how we stayed away from danger. It's how we knew, hey, this thing is dangerous. So that draw to negative things, because in the past, if you think of evolution, negative things could hurt you really bad. So it's in us as people to be aware of negativity, but like I said, you don't want to let that sit in your mind and in your body and in your soul of that negativity. So how do I work through my negativity? Is if you have this much room in your brain, right, in your soul, in you as a person, and it's filled with negativity, well, I take some positive stuff from over here and I push it in the circle. And the more positive stuff, this is just the way that I do it, the more positive stuff that you put into your mind, the less room there is for negative stuff. So I read books as a positive thing. I listen to podcasts as a positive thing. I surround myself with nice, fun, kind, energetic people. I watch inspirational movies, sometimes movies that make me cry, like a good, happy cry. So that's how I deal with negative thoughts and feelings. And as well, the second part of that question, that's how I get them out of my head. Next question. This is kind of a fun and a funny one. During your wrestling career, have you ever had a student from your Spanish class recognize you and you get to meet them again somehow? Yes, I have. And I'll tell you what's really weird. So you're in middle school right now, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, 11, 12, 13 years old, maybe 10-ish. Someday, you're going to call your teachers by their first name, right? Someday, you're going to be 39 like I am, and you're going to see your teacher who is 60 or who knows how old. But yeah, that's one of the more interesting parts of having been a teacher, having had a public career, right, in professional fighting, and then seeing many of my students now as grown men and women, where they call you your first name, and where I call them, continue to call them their first name, sometimes their Spanish name. So yeah, there's been several instances where I've reconnected with my students much later in life, and I'm friends with some of them on social media. So that's another weird thing. They're now not in middle school, not in high school, but 30 years old, 35-year-old men and women. The next question, how did you set goals to achieve? This is a really good question. I talk about it in my presentation. I talk about it on a regular basis through my podcasts and my books. But the idea, I was just reading a book today that talked about extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. Now, they're big fancy words. You're in middle school, but it's really not that fancy. Extrinsic motivation means that you're motivated by a prize, a goal, a medal, money, a nice car, a new shirt, new shoes. Like that thing drives you. But in studies of happiness, over time, it's intrinsic motivation that is a driver of happiness, meaning that if you want to be happy or happier, it's intrinsic motivation. It's the satisfaction of working towards something, of achievement, that is a real source of happiness. So I believe that it's important to set goals, to always be working towards something. It could be something big, like a state championship in wrestling, like I worked toward when I was in high school, or it could be something smaller, like reading a book or writing a book, writing a page in what will eventually turn into a book. So I set goals because I believe in working towards something. I believe in the result, the happiness that is a result of working toward your goals. There's actually a principle, it's called the progress principle, that says we as humans derive or get happiness from working toward goals, not from accomplishing those goals. And for me, I kind of have a couple different levels of goals. I have like the big time goal, which is win a state title. And then I have smaller goals, right, which could be accomplishing, well, for me, for example, currently is to read a book a week. That's a goal of mine. So that's not something I have to wait a year for or 5 years for. It's something that I can accomplish right now. I also have a daily goal, right, of maintaining a positive attitude. And that's not easy for me. Like getting back to the negativity. It's not easy, right? I really have to intentionally do things that make me happy and make me feel good. I have small goals of working out, small goals of producing my podcast. So whether it's a big goal or a little goal, I set a variety of goals, but I do understand that the importance is progressing or moving toward those goals, not necessarily in accomplishing those goals. Next question is about my mom and my brother, and then I'm going to jump to another page here that also ties into my mom and my brother. Are my mom and my brother okay? So I spoke pretty openly about them during the presentation, and it's relatively the same situation with them as it was when I spoke to you all last month. They're okay. It's obviously not the best situation that we or I or they could ask for, but one of the things, and I talked about this in the presentation, having bad things happen to you can help you appreciate the things that you do have, right? So this is not a good situation at all, right? It's not something we would have asked for, but it is our situation, and we have to learn to deal with it in the best way possible. So they are okay. They're moving forward, and I appreciate any positive thoughts and energy that you send their way. Next question is, was it scary when I was fighting? Yeah, it was terribly scary. So why do it, right? Why do a thing that scares you, scared me more than anything, which is fighting, no less professional fighting. Just like I believe in goals, and this is not a cut and dry, the right thing. It's just how I live my life. I don't like to be held back by fear. I like to take the things that scare me and work toward progressing through that fear. So with professional fighting, when I was your age, when I was in middle school, I worried on a pretty much daily basis about getting beat up, about getting in fights, about kids starting trouble with me and then getting in trouble because of it. I worried about that all the time. So I learned that to get through that fear, right, much later in life, I trained and I learned how to become a professional fighter, and I learned self-defense, so I didn't have to fear that, right? I certainly didn't look for it, and I don't do it outside of professional fighting. But I've always had that attitude of, if something is scary and scares me, I want to work toward overcoming that. In a middle school situation where you have to, if you're not already, or start soon, giving reports or speeches or making phone calls, or making a phone call versus sending a text message, or going to your principal or your guidance counselor to express a concern or a trouble that you're having in school. It's never easy, right? And that stuff can be very scary. And so I like to, just like the goals, a way that you can work through your fears is you don't have to attack the most scary thing in life that you're afraid of, you can start small. You can start relatively safe. If you're afraid of public speaking, maybe you can just say to your friend or your mom or your brother or your teacher, I'm really afraid of public speaking and I need to give this speech in a month. Can I practice with you? That's a relatively harmful situation there. Your friend or your teacher or your guidance counselor or your brother, they're not going to point their fingers and say, oh my gosh, you're terrible. No, truthfully, neither will an audience. I've never had that happen to me in my life. It's not because I'm awesome at doing what I do. It's because generally it just doesn't happen that way. But it's a fear that we create. So for me, again, when I have these fears in my life, I like to work toward them because I don't like to be held back by my fears. I like to be free to live the life that I desire to live. Here's a great question. Now, this came from the next 3 questions. So those were about 4 or 5. And then the next 3 I'm going to talk about, these were from another school that I spoke at, but I thought they were really relevant to this video that I'm sending you. This one says, how did you stay motivated when you're home? All right, the coronavirus, boy, it's knocked us on our butts. And it is so important. I'm speaking for myself because I know what it does for me. So how do you stay motivated when you're home? I've picked a handful of healthy habits, and I do them daily. I don't miss them. And they're not super big, hard, difficult things. I'll tell you 3 of those daily habits. 1, I drink a lot of water, right? Sounds like a simple, easy habit, but why? Because drinking water reminds me, hey, paying attention to your nutrition, eating healthy foods is very important, right? So this keeps me on track in that sense. I also exercise nearly daily, 6 to 7 days a week. I exercise. I've always exercised my entire life, but that's another way that I stay motivated during the pandemic. And then lastly is I read. I love reading. I absolutely love reading. I think it can help us in so many different ways. It help us to progress through life in a positive way. And so I read, I journal, I record my podcast. But those are 3 things that I do on a daily basis to stay motivated. And then they're not easy, right? You want to feel motivated. You want to feel energetic. You want to feel inspired. But the truth is you have to work. You have to do certain things to feel that way. And those are 3 things that I do. And to touch back on reference to my brother and my mom and thinking of my family, I also remind myself when I am low, when I am feeling down, because it is not easy to be in your house. I'm not sure the exact rules in California right now, but here in Pennsylvania, we can go out, but there's still a lot of restrictions, and that's really hard, right? I like my office a lot, but I'd much rather be on your stage in your school interacting with you all during your lunch periods. So in those really low times where I feel down or stressed or anxious or worried or sad, I think of, hey, what do I have? It could be I'm warm, right? I have heat. I have electricity to something so big as my kids. I'm grateful for my kids. So that's the way I stay motivated, and I work through the down times. What inspired you to go to schools and give speeches? This is like what I'm doing right now, what I did, with you all last month. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. If I have a purpose or if I have a mission, it's to meet you where you're at and help you work through the things you're worrying about, the things you're scared of, the things you think are limiting you, to help you work hard and teach you commitment and determination and perseverance to help you be happy. That's the thing that I want to do the most in my life. And I think back to when I was in middle school and how scared and afraid and worried and out of place at times that I felt. And I want you to rest assured that you'll be okay. And you got to work through it, work toward something, but in the end, you'll be okay. So that's exactly why I chose to speak in schools. I was speaking in New Jersey last year, and I had a girl raise her hand and ask me, what was the best thing that you got from fighting? And my answer was the ability to stand here on the stage and speak to you all. And I'm saying that to you as I said it to them. This is what I love to do, and that's exactly what drew me to do it. And lastly, I'm going to end it with this. If you could change anything about your past or present life, what would you change? The truth is nothing. I wouldn't change a thing. There are many things that I didn't win. There are many things that I did wrong. But my passion and my love in life is moving forward, is learning from mistakes. There are many things I don't have that I wish I did have. If I would have won this fight, I would have had that thing, or it would have enabled me to do that. I wish, I mean, small things. I love to work out. I wish I had a big gym that I could call my own, but I don't. But the truth is, life is a journey. Life is always changing. And my belief, again, is that my job, my responsibility is to keep moving forward. And if I would have won that fight, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And my kids wouldn't be getting home in about 45 minutes. And my wife wouldn't be getting home in about 45 minutes. And I don't know where I'd be. And I like where I'm at now. And I hope you like where you're at now. And if you don't like where you're at now, go back to the beginning of this video and start thinking about identifying those goals, surrounding yourself with the right people, working toward those goals, understanding that true happiness in your life isn't on the outside, it's on the inside. And a lot of that happiness on the inside can come from working toward goals, working toward different things in your life, and surrounding yourself with the right environment. Remember, filling your mind with the positive stuff as much as you can to push out the negative stuff. So, Mr. Alberts, Morrill Middle School, I appreciate your time last month. I appreciate your time now. Hope we get to work together in the future. And in the meantime, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out on social media at Charlie Spaniard. Just ask Mr. Alberts for that. He can spell it out for you. My podcast, my books, my website, it's all there. Spaniard School is there, and I will continue to create content. So hopefully you can tune in and continue to learn and be inspired and move forward. So thank you all. Have a great holiday season and a happy beginning to next year.